these we go for a motion on all of these tonight.
And they're already included, so. Oh, yeah. So what you're going to do, you should have a script.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It says, so when you, let's be done before, after. No. Agenda. Or say. Report out prior to motion. Consent agenda.
So that's it, but after the vote.
Nope.
Hi, Yvonne, can you hear me? You're muted, though.
Yes, I can. And yes, I was.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think they approve it in June. So he gives us the whole. Oh, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yvonne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So, is our next meeting in June your last meeting with us?
Yes.
I'm going to be like missing you.
I know. I'm contemplating if I want to come in and not get emotional or just.
It would be great to see you. You should come in if you can. I know.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, come in. But if you can't, we understand. But it'd be great to see you. Yay. All right. We all heard that, right? You all heard her say that. Thanks, Yvonne.
Okay.
Like summer camp, I like that.
I know. Plants around her. I want to be.
We had our first big person last night. I go, right, I did something wrong. I make up the loss.
It's not nice to see each other.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Wake up. Welcome to our meeting. We'll start off by doing a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this is a reminder that we are being recorded or on Zoom, so everybody be on their best behavior, especially you, Dr. Porcelli. And you know what we'll do is we'll have Deb do a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. Please say here, when I say your name, Mr. Boucher,
Here.
Mr. Stewart. Here. Mrs. Anderson.
Here.
Mrs. Corbin. Here. Mrs. Irvin.
Here.
Mrs. Johnson.
Here.
Mrs. Falvo. I believe Mrs. Falvo is absent tonight. Mr. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Nelson.
Here.
Mr. Nicotera.
Here.
Dr. Porcelli.
Here.
Mr. Salerno. Here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb. All right, now we're going to go off to number 3, our recognition. Dr. Kilburn? No recognition tonight. Recognition, no guests either, right? No guests either. No. All right, close COVID-19 communications from the floor.
So there was no correspondence. However, I did hand out this fabulous flyer. The Genesis Group at their November 18th celebration of education will be recognizing not only our amazing employee, Ann Turner, but Charlene Hartman, our former board member. So please consider attending the event on November 18th at Harts Hill Inn.
It is a fantastic event. That's one of my favorites, isn't it? It's just great. It's a great celebration of, yeah. Okay, so Dr. Kilburn, do you want on to the district superintendent's report? We can give us an update on learning loss update, which is a funny learning loss.
Yeah, so New York State is using the term learning loss, and I've asked if Ann Turner and Chris Hill would get together and talk about some of the things that are being planned throughout the region to address this throughout the summer of 2021. And they'd like to kick off by saying, let's not call it learning loss. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Ann.
Yeah, thank you. We're pretty excited to talk about the initiatives we have going for both students and for staff this summer, or staff throughout the region this summer. And again, we do not like to use the term learning loss. We feel like that puts things in a negative mindset. So what we have up here on our first slide is, and I'd like to just read this to you, is we talk about learning leaps instead of learning loss. We identify where students are in their learning and identify critical content that they must learn now to accelerate their performance in the future. And we raise our expectation for students rather than lowering them. We want to talk about fostering a growth mindset. You know, we've heard a lot about loss, this deficit mindset, and we really like to try to frame this around an opportunity. You know, one of the terms that I heard today was unfinished learning. You know, not learning loss, but unfinished learning. And I know it seems like a little change, but I think those little changes make a difference if we think about it in a more positive way. So I'll start with student learning programs. As you know, my division, led by Mary Lourdes Tangora, offers a lot of opportunities over the summer. So I'm going to go over some of those, and we'll start with CTE summer camps. Now, CTE summer camps are something that we've offered in a certain way every single year. But this year, we met with some superintendents and talked about modifying and making them a little bit more robust for the coming summer. So we met with a group of superintendents and we developed some CTE summer camps that really the purpose is to get kids out of the house, get them working with their hands, get them together, and to give them an opportunity to be in a good place by the fall. This is an opportunity to kind of reset themselves and be in a good place. One of the things that we're doing in each of the camps is we are integrating math. So on one day of each camp, a math teacher will come in and co-teach and talk about, if you're in culinary, here's where math is applicable here. If you're in cosmetology, here's where math is applicable. Something that the superintendent's identified is, you know, it will really help kids to see that relevance, where math is relevant. So that's part of it this year. So we've adjusted these camps based on the needs of the superintendent. And if you look at the next slide, it will show you we're running an agri camp based on our conservation program, a welding camp, which is the most popular one right now from what we're hearing, recreational equipment technology, small engine repair, creative cooking, our culinary class, photography, t-shirt, and graphic design is graphic design technology, and a cosmetology camp. So those camps, I mean, we get a benefit from this too. It exposes some younger kids. These are geared towards middle school students. It exposes kids to the CTE program, so we get a benefit out of it too. It is at no cost to districts. We run these at no cost. Remember, all the supplies are leftover supplies from the school year, so those are already paid for. Our teachers come in not at their daily rate, at a little bit lower, so we're able to run this at no cost. So we're excited. The applications are out to all the school districts and all the principals. So we're looking to see what the capacity will be this year. You know, it's always going to be a gamble whether folks want to take this time to be away with their family or get involved. But we have a lot of school district participation and involvement this year. So we're excited about that. Next, we have our academic programs, and I'll start with our elementary programs. Now, these we run every year. This year, it looks like we're in a few more districts than we normally are. The other thing that you'll see up on the top is the letters SEL. All of our elementary schools will be focusing a little bit more on social emotional wellness than they normally do. Now, that doesn't mean they don't normally focus on it. It's just there's a much more robust focus on it. Some districts are adding social workers to their summer school program. Now, typically, these summer acceleration programs are only about math and reading, getting kids ready for a good start to the next school year. And they are, again, they're about that. Prioritize curriculum, teachers focus on getting kids ready for that next school year. But this year, there is a little bit extra focus on social emotional learning. So we are in Clinton, Holland-Patton, New Hartford, New York Mills, and Whitesboro. Now, of those, New York Mills and Whitesboro we have every year. So the Clinton, Holland-Patton hasn't been in a few years, and New Hartford, those are all additions based on district needs. And that is as of today. So I will say that, Ms. Tangora wouldn't want to hear me say this, but if a district came to us now, a lot of districts are working on their own as well. So just because we've listed these up here doesn't mean other components aren't doing it. Some are just doing it on their own, which is also fine, and we'll support and help any way we can. In the secondary, bit of a shift this year for our secondary programs, and we really want to focus on that term unfinished learning instead of learning loss, unfinished learning. Typically, we've run a giant regional summer school every summer. This year, we're not doing that. And the change with no Regents exams, there were two factors, really. No Regents exams at the end of summer is one. Growth in the ability for teachers and students to use technology was the other, right? So one of the positive byproducts of the last year is everyone got better at technology. So what we're doing is we're running credit recovery programs customized to any district that needs it. So what a credit recovery program is different in a traditional summer school. If a student doesn't pass global studies, they go to a summer school class, they retake global in one classroom with a bunch of other students that have retaken global. We're not doing that this year. We're running credit recovery labs. So instead, 10 children go to a classroom. They log on to a program called Plato, which is a credit recovery program where the student starts off where they left off, and they accelerate at their own pace. And so they can be done in a week. If they really get after it, they can be done. It could take them all summer. Now, in that room could be 10 other kids taking 10 other courses, what they need, where their learning loss is, where their unfinished learning is. In the room is a teacher and a teacher assistant. In the building, so if there's 4 rooms, there's one math teacher, one ELA teacher, one social studies teacher, and they will rotate around based on the content needs. Now, each of these districts all are involved. I should say all of these listed are involved. Each of them are customizing it differently. For instance, I put Holland-Patton up there with an SEL focus. Holland-Patton is bringing in guidance counselors. They're bringing in social workers. They're behavior managers. They really want to focus on this, and they're investing in this summer. Everybody can do it. Other districts, bunch of other districts are focusing on courses that haven't been taken yet. So we have a bunch of the high schools focused on government, economics, and health. Those are half-year courses that you can complete during the summer to kind of get ahead. So every district is customizing it based on their needs, based on their transportation, based on their time of day, all of that. So we've been working with those districts, and we're up and running. Some districts are still that are, if you don't see a district listed, it's probably doing it on its own. But we've had great cooperation. One of the things Mary Lords was talking to me about today is she's never seen so much coordination between summer school, summer work, and the BOCES. So she's working very closely with every high school principal on customized solutions, whereas in a traditional year, they send us a list of kids to enroll. There's much more cohesion now. We're pretty excited about this opportunity. We will be, in some of the schools, we'll give old Regents exams at the end to see how this process works as compared to a traditional summer school. It's much more convenient for the districts. It's in the district, so it cuts down on transportation costs. And the other part of it is, for the most part, this is being done by district teachers hired by BOCES. So Holland-Patton is the one I was very closely involved with. So they're all Holland Patton teachers, and we hire them. So when we hire them, that allows them to receive BOCES aid on it. Mr. Boucher?
You also have the opportunity to use teachers from here, because I know in Remsen, Nicole, that lives right on Main Street, and she did, at least in the past, she's been able to go up and do credit recovery through the summer school program.
Yep, yeah. Remsen's model, actually Remsen and Brookfield have been doing this for a few years now. So we are using the people that have always been there. For the most part, what we're getting though is a list of teachers from, say, New Hartford that we hire. Yeah. And then if there's a gap, we use our pool of either BOCES teachers or typical regional summer school teachers to fill it in. Oh, I lost my mic. Sorry about that.
So I wonder too, kind of about two things. One is, speaking from my own experience, when we would have a regional summer school, some students would not want to attend because it was not their high school. They might have to go to a different high school than they're used to going to. So I wonder if there will be increased participation and to what degree that played a role in it, because there might be a higher need, obviously, coming out of COVID too. And then the second piece I'm curious about is where they would be on those Regents exam scores, because in credit recovery, they don't have to retake portions of a curriculum that they've mastered already, right? So they would take those initial tests, and whatever parts of the math, for example, that they already know how to do well, they don't have to be retaught in those areas. So they could really focus on the areas of instruction they don't flourish at yet. So that'll be neat. It might be a neat model to see continue.
Yeah, to your first point, the regional summer school, one of the barriers to regional summer school is children going to a high school they're not comfortable with. That has always been a barrier for a lot of kids who didn't want to go because of it wasn't their high school. So that has been a problem. Not a massive problem, but it had been a problem in the past. So that will be eliminated. It'll be tough to judge the numbers this year. So if we maintain this model, it'll be a little bit easier to this is just a different kind of year. So it'll be tough to judge the numbers this year. But in the future, we could see. And as far as the Regents exams, you're right. You know, the beauty of credit recovery is that it finishes the unfinished learning, if you will. You know, it only focuses on the areas. If a student passed that second marking period, they don't do that again. But it also provides you an opportunity, if you're going to do a Regents exam, to spend that last week reviewing the whole system. It does provide that opportunity. So in that same model can be used for credit acquisition as long as you have the requisite seat time. They have to be there every day for that. Whereas if it's a course that a student sat for, as soon as they're done, they're done. So a lot of these students towards the end of the program will not be there anymore. They'll be done. If they get after it, you know, that's on them. So, so that's what we're running with secondary programs this year. We're pretty excited about it. The extended school year program, special education summer school that we run here, is up to 22 classrooms and 230 students right now. So that program grows every year. So this is a little bit of a jump, but I wouldn't say it's atypical of the trend that we've been seeing. That program is located here on campus. All of our component districts are involved. It's different than the credit recovery programs will work 4 days a week. This is every day, full day. So the credit recoveries are half days for 4 days a week. This is every day, full day. It includes academics, PE, art, music. Mr. Boucher?
The 230 students, how does that work? Are they voluntarily coming? Is that, they all opt in? Some of the school all opt? How's it work?
It's part of the Committee on Special Education process. So it is on the IEP, 12-month programming or extended school year is a decision made by the Committee on Special Education on a student-by-student basis. Their big focus this year is really, if you look on the right side, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech, vision, hearing. So those therapies are very difficult for therapists and for students when we are in a remote setting. So we've had a couple different shutdowns this year. You can replicate virtual therapies or teletherapy as we call it, but it may have caused some gaps that we are assessing that summer, there'll be a lot of time focusing on therapists. We'll be hiring almost all of our therapists to work this summer because a lot of kids, it's an opportunity for us to get to September in a good place. The other thing before I turn this over to Ann Turner, it's semi-related, is we are still running driver's education programs in about 6 districts right now. A lot of them are pending state approval. I didn't include them in the presentation because they're not really about unfinished learning or acceleration, but I was on a roll, so I thought I'd put them out there. We're running them. Ms. Turner?
Thank you. So continuing on the theme of accelerating learning, I'd like to show you some of the professional development offerings for summer of 2021. But this time it's in regard to our area teachers and our area administrators and their opportunities for continuous improvement in their areas of expertise. Okay, so one of the first ones we have is culturally responsive and sustaining education. We are offering 6 sessions with regard to this. As you can see, they are offered locally, so our OHM BOCES districts can participate. They're also offered regionally to the JMT, which is the 4 BOCES, one to the north, one to the east, one to the west, as well as ours. And as well as that, they're also offered statewide. And since we've been doing this series, we've had people from New York City, we've had people from Albany, we've had people from the western part of the state. So that part has been very successful, I think. And this work is about education that's grounded in a cultural view of learning and human development, in which multiple expressions of diversity are recognized and regarded as assets for teaching and learning in the classroom. These are, by the way, offered asynchronously, which means we develop the program, we post it on Google Classroom, and the people participate and respond back and forth with us. All right. We are also offering an English language learners opportunity. This will be offered twice, and again, it is offered regionally as well as statewide. And this is along the theme of accelerated learning, but accelerated learning for all students. We also are offering 2 courses in social emotional learning, one entitled Embedding Social Emotional Learning School-Wide, and a second, Creating a Professional Learning Culture Based on Social Emotional Learning. I'm going to be offering 2 courses this summer entitled Early Learning Standards, Assessment in the Early Years. So it's very important that we know where our students are and how to best assess them when they're early learners, what's appropriate, what's an appropriate assessment, so that we know where their learning can accelerate. And I also will be offering literacy in the early learning classroom and techniques that local teachers might use or add to their practice. We have not talked too much about the Virtual Academy today, but should the Virtual Academy continue into next year at the request of our districts, we are going to be doing some preparation for that this fall with our Virtual Academy teachers. And that would include curriculum mapping for ELA and math, facilitating the shift to online learning and what are the best practices there, exploring apps for learning, and reviewing New York State education law to the with regard to compliance and the apps that teachers are using and making sure they're compliant. So we also will be offering on-demand prioritization of the New York State ELA and math standards. And when I say on-demand, that is because all of our districts are in different places with this work. Some have done more, some have not had the opportunity to do as much. So as requested by the districts, we will pre-K through 12 work with them on prioritizing the ELA and math standards for their students. And then, of course, we're doing district-specific workshops. So we have requests from districts. 2 of them have requested a 4-day workshop entitled The Science of Reading. The principals in the region will be doing work over the summer on reading in the content areas. We have been doing some math audits with our districts, and the outcome of that and some recommendations for the resulting professional learning will be taking place. And we will also be running a course entitled Teaching Math for Understanding, which is a course for elementary teachers that if they have questions or are unsure about some of the concepts in mathematics, we utilize high school teachers to assist them with teaching math for understanding. And because students are at the heart of all we do, and of course we are better together because we are OHM BOCES. Questions about any of the workshops or any of the offerings or anything at all?
Yeah, so
About that. Sorry about that. So all the districts, they just, the teachers opt on instead of, because some of them are on vacation or go away. They
have
just,
the opportunity, the asynchronous workshops that we're doing, the series of 6,
right.
the ELL series of 2, yes, they can take those at their leisure, so to speak, when it's convenient for them.
Can I just stray a little bit, if you don't mind? What is the BOCES? Teacher shortage is huge right now. And as smaller districts, we're losing a lot of our staff to the bigger districts because of the financial situations. And as we go out to look for teachers, they're just not there. I don't know how to promote to our students within the high schools that may be a field they want to go in. I don't know if we take the lead on that or at least have some discussion on that somewhere in the process, because it is getting really difficult out there. I mean, try to find a tech teacher is.
Oh, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So.
Same thing with like certain secondary special ed teachers and ESL teachers. So in-house, I think we have a New Visions education program. So there is a career and technical pathway for people who are interested in education. NICET, the teachers union, had started like kind of an informational movement along with connections to secondary ed, post-secondary, that was ramping up right before the pandemic hit. So we can revisit that. As a group of superintendents, we were visiting that right before the pandemic and made connections with Utica College and they hosted the breakfast at Utica College. And that was the entire discussion, was working with the colleges on their teacher recruitment programs and supporting Utica College's, what's it called? Transitional B or the, yeah. So it's an alternate pathway for people to enter into education who maybe didn't have college degrees in education. So I think kind of picking that regional conversation back up needs to happen on that kind of more regional level. But in terms of programming here, I think there's a great opportunity through the CTE programming to connect children who might be interested in education into moving in that direction.
I think too, Russ, although it doesn't speak directly to our high school students, I think it's a good example. Westmoreland has a fairly large cohort of student teachers from Utica College that have been there the entire year and have been working with teachers. But I think that's just such a good example for the students at Westmoreland.
Oh, sure.
So.
Thank you. I just was making a recommendation here. I just read a book called Reading the Brain. Have you heard of it? You've read it?
I have not read it, but
I'm just highly recommending it. I'm highly recommending it because it gives you the mechanics of how the brain actually goes through, its motions of how you can take the words off the page and turn them into language. And it's really fascinating. It's not what you think is happening at all.
Right?
Hmm?
It is, right? And it reminds me of the other book, Reading is Rocket Science.
Yes, it actually is. The fact that we can actually do it is remarkable. But it also breaks it down to why we can do it is simply that the brain is a pattern-seeking machine. It just is constantly looking for patterns and putting them into context for you. And that's what reading is patterns.
And it's very important that teachers understand that.
Yes.
I mean, we have the workshop that we're doing with 2 districts, the science of reading. So part of that is exactly what you're talking about. But it is so important. And our teachers can also help those skills. They can help to make those connections in the brain by activities, et cetera. So, yeah.
Obviously, the pedagogy you've put together to do it is working off of how the brain actually does do it. But you've done it without ever really knowing or understanding how the brain is actively learning and reading.
Fascinating, right?
Yes.
My favorite topic in education.
Yeah.
A quick question about the summer camp. Are some districts providing some transportation, or is that on the student?
I believe some districts are providing some of the transportation. I'm not necessarily, as a BOCES, we prepare to help the kids out of a car or off a bus. But I do believe some districts are planning on, in my conversations with the superintendents when we were building this, I do believe that some are providing transportation. But I can't speak for all of them.
Because that would, I don't know, attendance is probably very robust regardless, but if they had transportation, I imagine, I'm just thinking back to when I was young and where I lived, I'd probably need a ride, otherwise couldn't make it. But that's good. Maybe they will hope that'd be good.
I will say that attendance typically when we run these is not robust. No, not typically. This year's a little different because we have this partnership, a little bit more of a partnership going with the districts, and they're seeking out kids. And this is just such an atypical year. So we're excited about this year.
Mr. Boucher, just a comment, if I can, please. I think as we talked about in our retreat months ago, I think this is evidence of initiatives provided that BOCES is providing for the smaller school districts, because we could never do what Chris has presented. Our teachers would never have the opportunities that Mrs. Turner has talked about. Local districts, we would be at wit's end because you couldn't afford it. We didn't have the personnel to do it. So BOCES is taking the lead, and I know the local districts are very appreciative.
Okay, moving on. Only the last item on my report is just that on your tables, you should see a draft list of future cooperative board dates for the next year. And we're giving those to you a month in advance. So if you could please review them, they will be presented to you again at the next board meeting for your adoption. So just to get an eye on them early. take them home, take a look at your home calendars and see if that schedule will work. And I am done with the district superintendent's report.
Okay, well done. Thank you. All right. First, the easy one. We need to move into some approvals, but we'll start off with approval for the minutes of the regular meeting on April 21st, 2021. Can we get a motion for that approval?
Also move.
Moved by Mr. Moore and second by. Got that? Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you. And Mrs. Anderson, I'm sorry. In my head, I said her name. Sorry about that. I do that a lot. My wife says, you didn't say that. I said, I'm sure I did too say that. She goes, no, you didn't. I said, where's the recording? Come back. There's no recording. Okay, so thank you. Sorry about that, Michelle. Okay, so now before we move on to the consent agenda, I need to read my notes here to make sure I could cover all the proper details. If you'll please bear with me.
Mr. Boucher?
Yes.
Did we need a vote on the minutes?
Oh, do we? Oh, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Doctor. Telling my stories, I forgot about that. All right, so before we move on to the approval for the consent agenda B, C, and D, please note that the revised consent agenda that reflects the following is pertaining to Mr. Hill and Mr. Morris. That the approval of creation of a new position, Assistant Superintendent for Instructional Programs and Professional Learning, approval of the change in title, Supervisory Duties, approval of the creation of new positions for Assistant Superintendent of Support Services, approval of change in title, Supervisory Duties, and approval of resignation. Okay, and then so that goes along with the approval of agenda for B, C, and D.
Mr. Boucher, question.
Yes, sure.
On what is I supposed to say? Reserving the right to object, and I will not object. On item 7D, 7, I believe, okay, regarding Mr. Morris. Dr. Kilburn, does Mr. Morris currently have tenure in the position he is now in?
Yes, and he will be relinquishing that to restart the entire process again.
I'm not entirely sure. We have a number of superintendents in the room. I believe under education law, if a person currently has tenure and moves to another position, their tenure is shortened, the period of time for tenure. Is this we're offering here with Mr. Morris 3 years for his probationary. Is that the shortened one, or so we've already accommodated that?
Yes, we have. Tenure is a 4-year process now, shortened is 3.
Didn't want you to change that much longer, Scott. Thank you very much.
She's looking out for you.
I will move the items B, C, and D.
Perfect. Okay. So we need we have a motion by Dr. Porcelli and a second by Mr. Nicotera. And okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along here. Now we move on into board topics. Dr. Kilburn? No board topics?
There are no board discussion topics at this time.
Okay. Any old business? No old business? Any old business? Anyone? Okay. All right, so we're off into executive session. So we need to make a motion to come out of the regular meeting, go into executive session for the purpose of talking about the employment. Let me see, which one is this? Yeah, appointment, particular personnel turn, yeah, right. Discuss may lead to appointment. No, not that one. There we are. Discussion employment history of particular person.